Friends. How many of us have them? Well, if you're anything like me, then you just don't. That's right. I have zero friends, zero homies, zero pals, zero bitch. I am bitchless. And I finally understand why that gets a lot of men's panties all up in a bunch because it's very sad, disheartening, and downright depressing. I hate it here. But I would be lying to myself and to you if I sat up here and said, "Oh, I really don't know why a lot of those relationships just didn't work out. I have no idea, no reasoning." I'm not that kind of girl. There is no woe is me. For some of the relationships, I know exactly why they ended, and I played a major role in why the relationships ended. The truth of the matter is, I never knew how to be a good friend. I never saw good relationships or good friendships around me. I did not know how to function healthily in relationships, especially in my adolescence. It was just hard for me, and I was ignorant on how to be a good friend in general. However, a lot of the relationships, my old friends did have faults of their own. So, it was kind of a 50-50 in some situations, 60-40, 70-30, 80-20, 90-10. It just really depended on the relationship. But again, I did play a role in some of the demise. I was very male centered, very much giving pick Misha. Again, did not know how to be a good friend. And I can be a big girl and admit that. I also found that a lot of the friendships and relationships that I had in my life, especially when I was younger, were all due to proximity. And that's a very common occurrence. You go to the same school with someone, your mom knows their mom, your family friends, you're in the same sports club, whatever. Proximity saves and keeps a lot of relationships and friendships going. So naturally, when I moved away or took a different direction in my life, some of those relationships just fell off naturally. No harm, no negative energy between me and the other parties. We just weren't around each other anymore, so we just didn't speak. I also found that when I got married and started having children, I just naturally started cutting people off cold turkey. And it wasn't because it was like a sort of one event happened and I was like, "Oh, this person is getting cut off." Absolutely. Some of the cases, yes. But in some cases, it was delayed processing on my part. I had children and my frontal lobe was starting to develop a little bit more. And I started reflecting on some of the relationships I had and some of the moments that I had in those relationships with other people. And I started noticing like people really were doing me dirty, saying nasty, rude things, not being there for me, or just being very shady and backhanded. And in the moment when it was happening, I wasn't aware of it. It was like I couldn't see it or I didn't fully understand it. Again, delayed processing. But in the current time when I was reflecting, I had come to the realizations like, oh, they really screwed me over. Oh, they really actually don't like me. Like, I probably should never contact them again. So that's why I say I cut a lot of relationships off cold turkey because I just woke up one day and was like, I don't want to contact, I don't want to see this person ever again. So I'm not going to. I've cut off a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons. I know I cut off one friend because there was someone else who was marrying into their family who I really genuinely did not like. And I didn't want to sit up there and play respectability friendly fake politics. No, I don't like this person. They're in your family now. So I got to let y'all go. Bye. I've cut off people because they have deeply upset me purposely, intentionally on my birthday. And that is just something you do not do. Not me. You fuck with me on my birthday on purpose to hurt me, I don't ever want to talk, see, or smell you again. Bye. And again, I know a lot of this sounds very toxic, very immature. The truth is, back then, I was very toxic, very immature as well. But in my heart, I know that cutting off those relationships were the right decision. I was led by intuition to do it, and I always trust my intuition. It has never failed me, literally. But as I've been thinking about friendships and relationships, one of the questions that popped into my mind is who or what is really to blame for my current bitchless state? And I've come to the realization that it's my mother. No, 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 no. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. But actually, I'm not kidding. I'm not joking. I'm being for real. It's my mother and a lot of other female relatives who were my first early experiences of what relationships are, who completely tainted and ruined the way that I viewed relationships and friendships, especially with other women in general. because a lot of those early relationships that I had with my mother and other female relatives were harsh. They were very backstabby, very hurtful, very traumatic. And so I think subconsciously and deep down, I began to develop a deep disdain and distrust of women in general. So I always had it in my mind and my heart that it's easy for women to betray you. And I should always wait for that betrayal, no matter what. No matter how nice a person was being to me, I knew that that switch could flip at any moment. And so I would just always wait for it and anticipate it. And sometimes do things to cause the relationship to break off because I just didn't want to get hurt in the end. Again, very toxic, very unhealthy. But I'm a big girl. I can admit that. Your mother and the first relationships that you have early in life greatly influence how you navigate and pursue all of the other relationships that you will pursue in your life. Your mother definitely is your first introduction to bonding, and she is the glue. She sets the tone for the bonds that you will make in this life until you are cognizant and mature enough to make your own glue and make your own bonds with other people. And I just want to give a disclaimer. Yes, the episode is titled My Mom Was My First Op. I understand that that sounds a little harsh, but it's the truth. And I also want to give a disclaimer. This video is not intent for me to embarrass, shame, or guilt my mother whatsoever. I love and appreciate my mother very much. I have talked to my mother about some of the ways that she has hurt me in my childhood. I have decided to do the healing. I have decided to do the work on healing myself and fixing and not carrying the trauma and the hurt that I was carrying all of my life. I've made those choices. Again, this video is not to discredit her or hurt her in any way. I am here to talk about my experiences and how I've healed because I think that that's helpful to other people. You know, someone could watch this video and relate to me. They can feel less lonely about the situation that they're in or the space in their life they're in. It could actually save someone's life to hear someone explaining something that you have also gone through because you can see, hey, that person went through what I went through. I can get through it too. I can heal too. And that's life saving for a lot of people. Now, let's get into how some of these experiences have shaped my view of friendships and relationships as a whole. I'll never forget one of my earliest memories was of my mom just whipping my little ass at one of my birthday sleepovers. And I mean like whop, 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 whop. Real
Oh,
bad. Like it was bad. I was crying, I was screaming, and mind you, there were other guests in this house, adults and children, because like I said, this was my birthday sleepover. And I think the reason why we got into conflict was because it was over pajamas or something. She told me ahead of the sleepover, you can wear these specific pajamas on your sleepover. I took that to heart and I expected it. And when she switched up on me at the sleepover, I got mad and rightfully so. And I could not compute why she would not let me wear the pajamas that I wanted to wear. And so when I, started talking back and being like, no, 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 I want to wear the pajamas that you said I could. My guess is my mom was flustered and embarrassed that, her child was disrespecting her in the presence of other adults, other people. And she took that personally. She took that violently and went upstairs and whipped my ass. And after my ass whipping, I had no choice but to get up, dry my tears, walk back downstairs, and act as if everything was peachy keen, although my ass was red and I was very unhappy. I had to bury any anger, any resentment, any hard feelings that I felt towards my mother and towards the other people who were in my house who just let me get beat like that. I was very angry, but I had to bury that anger and let it go because what else was I going to do? I already got my ass beat once. If I said something again, I was going to get my ass beat again. And I think that was probably one of the earliest moments that my subconscious took a snapshot
girl, a what?
and absorbed the fact that in relationships, no matter if someone hurt me, embarrassed me, made me feel small, or if they just straight up bullied me, I sometimes would just have to accept it and endure it. And because I had to just accept it and endure it, my younger self began to believe that, maybe I deserved the mistreatment. I deserve the bullying because, maybe I said something in the wrong tone. Maybe I looked at someone the wrong way unintentionally, but I still deserve disrespect because why would I look at someone like that? Why would I say it in that tone? Or maybe I was just being a straight up cunt. When I got in trouble, there was no conversation about why I was being punished. It was just the conflict, the punishment, the end. There was no talking about my feelings. There was no talking about how I felt. It was just, again, punishment, me having to sit with it by myself and accept the fact that I was being punished. Y'all know how black parents be. They don't apologize to you. They don't talk to you. They ask you what you want to eat or if you want to go to the store, and that's their way of apologizing, and that's their way of ending the conflict. It's very abrupt and it's very unfulfilling, especially to a young impressionable child. And I think that that is one of the big reasons why it has been so easy for me to just cut people off cold turkey. I don't care if I've known you for years. I have a matching tattoo with someone who I just cut off cold turkey. And a part of the reason why it's so easy for me to do that is because I experienced that with my mother, with other female relatives first. So, what is it for me to cut off, a decade or 2 decade long relationship? I've known my mom for 3 decades. And let me be clear, I cut her off for like a year too. Nobody's safe. I've never been familiar with sitting down and talking it out. I've never been familiar with getting the chance to express myself or getting the chance to be heard about how I felt. I've always felt that, it didn't matter if I'm hurt. It doesn't matter how I feel. No one's going to hear me or listen to me anyway. So why not just cut the relationship off? Done. And again, I carried that sentiment that it's not important for me to be heard, or, people will hurt you, but it's possible for them to still, I guess, care about you or even love you. That's just how relationships are. That's just how it is. So when it came to other friendships and relationships, like, oh, it's okay if my friend said that really rude thing to me. They probably didn't mean it, or, it wasn't that bad. They could have said something worse. Or, oh, it's okay if my boyfriend just screamed at me or punched the wall beside my head.
Huh?
It could have been a lot worse. They could have punched me in the head, but they didn't. So it's really not that bad. You see how that sounds really crazy and really unhealthy? That's because it is. That doesn't make any sense. But again, because when I was younger, that energy was just second nature to me. It was ingrained in me. So I naturally began to feel like I deserved any negative energy or consequences that I faced simply just because maybe I did something wrong, even when I didn't do anything wrong or anything to deserve what I was receiving. And when I was young, it's not like I could escape those harsh dynamics that I was facing. It was my mother, it was family, it was family friends. I could not escape them. I literally had no choice but to endure. And that was just something that I had to accept as normal. And it really turned me into a people pleaser because if you turn into a people pleaser and you just do what people ask you to do or do what you think people would like, then it's harder for them to be unkind to you. And it made me feel safer. Like if I just people please, people please, people please, people please. Wow, try and say that 3 times fast. I'm not going to do that because I can't. But people pleasing was the best way that I could assure that no one was going to stab me in my back or betray me. But obviously, people pleasing is not healthy and it doesn't do any good to yourself. It only does good to the people who are trying to take advantage of you and your kindness. So, with all of the negative energy that I was facing in these intimate relationships that I was having with family, I naturally began to attract, the energies that I was seeing in my family and other people outside of myself. And how I even began to mirror the energies that my family was giving to me. And I became a bully to other people in a lot of different instances. I will never forget bullying this little girl in elementary school. And I was so awful to her. And I resent the fact that I did that. I hate that I did that. It was wrong. But often, I don't know how many times I did it, we would have this vending machine at school, right? And I, for some reason, never had vending machine snack money. So this girl always did. And she was very quiet, very kind. And I was around manipulative people. So it was easy for me to spot people who were easy to manipulate. because when you're around a lot of manipulative people, you pick up on their traits. And so I began to manipulate her, and I would tell her, if you don't give me your snack money, I'm not going to be your friend. You're not going to have friends because I ran shit a little bit when I was little. I had a lot of friends. So if I said something, other people would be mean to her too. And I that was so wrong. That was not my money. But she would cry and cry and cry and give me the money, but it was just so it was wrong. And girl, if you ever are watching this video and you feel comfortable reaching out to me, please do, because I have $50 with your name on it, because again, I was so wrong for taking the money that your mom gave you so that you could enjoy your snack time. And I'm so sorry for tainting your childhood. It is not easy to experience bullying when you are a child, and it can fuck you up for the rest of your life. So I am deeply sorry. I know I don't deserve forgiveness from you. That is your choice to forgive me or not. But if you ever do watch this, I genuinely am very sorry. I was wrong. Not me out here confessing and repenting for my sins on the internet. But again, I'm a big girl. I can admit when I'm wrong. And I think that admitting that you're wrong is so crucial to the healing and unlearning process. You don't have to do it publicly like on the internet. You can write it in your journal or say it to yourself, beg for forgiveness to the heavens, to the clouds, do whatever you got to do. But if you can't acknowledge your mistakes, even if the reason why you were making mistakes wasn't completely your fault, you're going to keep mistaking. That's law. So it's just best if you own up to your mistakes and do better. I deeply desire to be an excellent friend, an excellent companion to other people who I am aligned with. I really deeply want that. So I've really had no choice but to address and heal my mother and friendship wound, because it's a wound. And if I leave that wound untreated and unopened, unhealthy, it's going to get infected. And I'm not going to attract anything but infected energy that I am trying to run away, or not even run away, because I don't run away from shit. I'm trying to heal from it. And I don't want to keep attracting the same toxic situations. I'm over it. It's boring. I don't want that in my life anymore. In the process of contemplating and thinking about my mother and friendship wound, I found myself recently watching a lot of TV shows where friendship and relationships were at the center of the TV show. Two of them that I really, really enjoyed watching were Sex in the City and Girlfriends. I finished Sex in the City about a month ago. I'm about halfway through Girlfriends. They got 8 seasons. It's long as hell, but I'm almost done. And I have a lot of thoughts. I really think that now in my life, now that I turned 30, it is the most appropriate time for me to have watched these shows. Because if I would have watched it earlier in my life, I don't think I would have been mentally prepared to watch those shows. I don't think I would have been ready to accept the concepts that I was seeing in these TV shows. In fact, when I was in college, one of my old roomies used to watch Sex in the City pretty religiously, but I wouldn't pay it any mind. And I'm so, so glad that I did not, because I would have latched on to Samantha Jones's personality and made it my own personality, and I would have became a problem, a succubus demon, and I was
Bombastic
already pretty
side eye.
reckless in college. So I'm just so, so, so grateful for that. But we're not talking about me and my recklessness. We're talking about friendship. Stay focused. Okay, okay. Before I get more into these TV shows and more about friendship, let's take a quick commercial break so I can get my little drinky drink together for today's symposium. I'll be right back. And we're back. Today's drink is the gorgeous, gorgeous Cosmopolitan that was inspired by Miss Carrie Bradshaw herself. She was sipping on these, guzzling them down so much in that show. Like, she just made it look so intriguing. So I was like, let me try some for this episode. It's a perfect time. I am definitely not a bartender, so I took the very easy way out and got a Cosmo in a bottle. So don't judge me. I won't say who the brand is unless they pay me, but I will give you a clue, a hint. I did get this from Total Wine along with this very, very cute martini glass as well. Isn't it cutesy? Okay, it's time for a sippy sip. And another disclaimer, I am a super, super lightweight. I do not drink often. Sometimes I don't even drink at all. Like, I can go months without drinking. So I'm just going to sip this very lightly, very slowly, very demure. It's good. I'm gonna put this down now. Okay, before we get back into the meat and potatoes of the episode, I'm gonna give a quick little review of how I feel about Sex in the City and Girlfriends. I don't think that you can compare the two shows. They're not comparable at all. However, I will say that I believe that the relationships, the dynamics in Sex in the City between the women, the four core women, were a lot healthier than the relationships and dynamics from the core four women and girlfriends. And I think that has to do with a lot of complexities like race and class, but that's another topic for another video. But one thing I will say about both TV shows is all of them bitch bodies was tea. Tea as I have never been more motivated to work out and look good in clothes than I have after watching those TV shows. Carrie, Samantha, Miranda, Charlotte, Tony, Joan, Lynn, Maya, T. They were sickening. And they always had that shit on, especially Carrie. I will give her her tens. She had that shit on. This may be a little bit controversial, but I really love Big and Carrie together. I thought that they were an excellent, perfect match. Was Big insecure and trying to put on a front to keep a certain image about himself because of societal and familial pressures? Absolutely. But at his core, I think he was just a very deeply autistic man who needed structure and predictability. And Miss Carrie Bradshaw was not giving any of that, giving very chaotic, giving very much wild horse. So naturally, the relationship was just very chaotic because the energies clashed a lot. However, I do think that they loved each other, and I do think that they were a good match. Aiden and Carrie, doomed from the very beginning. As soon as he said, I don't like them cigarettes, I was like, oh hell, hang it up, flat screen. This is not going to work. And I was right. However, it still was very soul crushing seeing their breakup. Like, that hurt me a little bit. Damn. And when I saw a baby strapped to his chest, I literally shed two tears out of my eyes because I was like, girl, I know you're hurt, Carrie. I'd be hurt too. Last thing on Carrie, she should have been in therapy for them daddy issues on episode 1. And I mean that. And you know what? I'm so sorry. I hated that they made Miranda have Steve's baby. That pissed me off. I think both Steve and Miranda deserve better partners for each other, but I get it. I understand that the show was trying to show what desperation will make you do and settle for because that's really what it was giving. I hated the relationship. It was not ever going to work. And as soon as Steve knew Miranda's income, it was just doomed. I'm sorry. I haven't even watched the sequel and just like that, but I heard that she leaves him anyway and becomes a coochie licker. So it was just a waste of everybody's time. Charlotte, real as from the beginning. She knew what she wanted. She got it. Was she neurotic? Absolutely. But still a queen. Love her. Love her down. Samantha, love her super down. I I have no notes for Samantha. She was just a very well rounded character who was my favorite. I really enjoyed how she was very selfish with herself and with her time, and she did not settle. Love that. Okay, on to girlfriends. I said I'm not done, but I still have opinions. Tony and Joan, that relationship pisses everyone off, as it should. It doesn't make sense. It does make sense
Which one
because,
is it?
it shows how time and having history with someone will keep you bound and tied in toxicity and disgustingness. But again, Joan should have stabbed her in like season 1. I'm sorry, she should have stabbed her or at least kicked her ass. When Tony tried to sleep with Joan's sex addict boyfriend, that the credit should have rolled. The whole show should have ended right then and there. I get from a writer's standpoint why they kept it going, but again, that was trifling. And Maya and Lynn were also trifling for not whipping Tony's ass because they should have had more allegiance to Joan. Because one, Lynn was staying with Joan, like she's giving you a place to live, and Maya only knew Tony through Joan. So I really didn't understand why it was so hard for them to not cut Tony off either. But again, it's a TV show from a writer standpoint, blah, blah, blah. I get it. I don't like it. Lynn blowing all of her alimony money on a painting really pissed me the fuck off. And it really turned me off from her character. I just, I don't have any words for that. Are you dumb? With Maya, I really hate how they try to frame her cheating and make her be punished for it. because Darnell was feeding a bitch from his job strawberries on like episode 2. So I really think that Maya should have got away with her cheating. And I don't think it's fair that Stan turned out to be a stalker. That happens sometimes. I've been there, but I don't think that it was fair. I think that her and Darnell naturally should have, I don't know, maybe separated and dated without breaking off the marriage because I don't know. I do think that they're a good match for each other. But again, I was not cool with Maya being punished like that. And with Tony, I completely understand why she behaved the way that she did, especially given her family upbringing. She had a harsh dynamic, and I know she was really trying to cope with it. But my real gripe with her and her character is in season 4 with the hair. What the fuck was that? Because Jill Marie Jones, her face card will never, ever, ever decline. That is a beautiful goddess. That is a gorgeous, gorgeous woman. Don't get me wrong. And I know that the show was trying to give like this is a new reemerged Tony after going to therapy and after healing a little bit. But like they could have given her better wigs, or they could have at least given her highlights or something with the weave that she had, or even a straight military buzz cut. That would have been real cute on her. She has the face for the buzz cut, but what they were doing with like the pixie wigs, it was giving the wig I have on my head right now, and I got this for under $20. That is not what Tony should have been giving, not giving her character. Absolutely not. All in all, I think that show really did a great job of showing how trauma and negative energy and not taking the time to heal can keep you trapped in some bullshit. I'm done ranting about the shows now. But what I really wanted to talk about is how, as I was watching those shows, it really made me start to think about what kind of friends do I want to see in my life? And what kind of friend do I aspire to be in this new, healthier version of myself? Like, I don't want to carry the past energies that I've had in friendships. I don't want to repeat that. I want to be a reliable, good friend. And looking at these shows, I don't want a Mr. Big in my life in any way, shape, or form. I take that back. If it was a business relationship where he was, like an investor or something, I would consider it. But again, he was wishy washy, very flighty. So, would I really want that in an investor or in a business partner? No, probably not. I probably would welcome a William in my life, like a supportive jester who is very passionate about the work that he does, very passionate about his friendships, very reliable to an extent when he's not being distracted by coochie, but just a platonic male presence in my life. And I'm on season 4. I see what they're trying to do with William and Joan's relationship, and I hope to God that the writers did this just to show that just because you have chemistry or good energy with someone does not mean you need to take platonic energy and turn it into romantic. No, I really hope that they come to that conclusion, but I'm gonna hold my breath because the writers was doing something in that writing room that I don't agree with. And speaking of the writers room, I really feel like William was meant to be a bi or straight up gay character. And I feel like one of the writers in that room was playing with the idea, but it didn't test well with audiences, so they just made him straight. Because that man is clearly bi or gay. I'm going to lean towards gay. I'm sorry. I'm standing on that. What do you think? If you've watched Girlfriends, what do you think? Do you think William's character was meant to be straight, gay, or bi? What are your thoughts? Because I'm very curious. With Sex in the City and observing their friendships, I 100% would want a friend like Samantha. She non-judgmental. She was there for her friend. She would speak her mind, but she was there. She was real. Was she a little bit self-absorbed? Absolutely. But again, very real, still very passionate about her friends and very connecting. She was willing to connect her friends with, other energies that would be helpful to them, which I think is very good. All around, Samantha was reliable. She was a good presence for all three of them. Back to Girlfriends, out of all of those relationships, Maya was the only one who I tolerated the most. And I say tolerated. I'm not going to say I necessarily liked her character, but I could understand her character and I related to her to a certain extent. So, would I want a friend like Maya? No. But again, I understand her. Honestly, this is one of the reasons why I love anime so much is because I think the writers in anime they write their relationships so idealistically to when where in reality people are like, "Oh, that's not real. Like friends aren't like that. People aren't like that, blah 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 blah." But if I want a loyal crew like Luffy had, I believe I deserve that. And I believe I can get it. Delulu is my Delulu. I don't care. And even in One Piece, they had their problems. I mean, Usopp and Luffy was throwing hands with each other. Sanji left. So they all had their problems. But they still resolved it and had healthy relationship bonds after that. So I admire things like that. And I want to see that translated in my real life. And I know that I have to be a reliable, loyal, trustworthy rock in energy so that I can attract that in my life. Like attracts like. Again, I know I have to be a good ass friend to myself first. And that is what I have been doing in this hermit mode that I've been in. I've been very isolated, I've been very lonely. And I don't think that it's all for nothing. I think this lonely period that I've been in has been for me to contemplate and figure out what I want in my life, who I want in my life, what energies I want in my life. It's very important for me to think about those things because I didn't have the opportunity to think about that when I was younger. I had no choice but to endure, and that was hard. But now, as I've been by myself, it's been important to me to show myself how much I love and honor myself. Do I show up for myself? If I say I'm going to do something for myself, do I do it or do I procrastinate? Do I delay? Am I showing up for myself? Am I celebrating myself? If I do something that is worth celebrating, do I take the time to celebrate myself? Those things have been really important questions that have been showing up in this time in my life. Things like that are so important to cultivate within first, truly. And I'm working on it. And it's hard. It's hard work, but I'm doing the work. And I think that that's the most important thing. Can I erase and forget about all of the negative experiences that I've had, familial wise, relationship wise, friend wise? Absolutely not. And I don't want to forget. I want to remember so that I never repeat that shit ever again, so that I never attract it ever again. I rebuke it. I rebuke. And I can honestly say that I do not harbor any negative feelings towards any of the relationships that have come and gone in my life. Like I said, I have a matching tattoo with someone who I absolutely loved for almost 2 decades. I still have a lot of love for that person. I have no hard feelings. I send nothing but love and good energy to them and all of the other relationships that have come and gone. I truly feel that way because I know that I experienced good times, laughs, celebratory energy with some of those people. And I cherish those happy moments that we shared together. That was important to me. And I won't forget that. I cherish the good times that we had because believe it or not, it is possible to have happy moments in toxic situations. And that is what keeps a lot of people stuck. They feel like, oh, I experienced the happiness once, it'll come back. We're just having a moment. You get a taste of the good and you continue to reminisce on it, even when you're standing in a pile of dog shit. And
Ew.
I'm guilty of doing that myself multiple times. But guess what? I have learned. And really, don't feel discouraged if it takes you longer than most to learn those lessons. It happens. Everyone moves, heals, and learns at their own rate. Do not ever compare your journey, your healing, to anyone else. It will just make you feel shitty. And you don't need that. You're already healing. I just hope that you learn to love yourself more than anyone or anything else in this world because loving yourself is one of the most important things. When you love yourself, when you cherish yourself, when you honor yourself, it is so easy and seamless for other energies to reflect that back to you, to love you, to honor you, to cherish you. Remember, your early relationships absolutely do set the tone for how you bond and form relationships with other people. But when you become mature and cognizant enough to start making your own decisions, you can change up the rhythm and add some beats to it if you want to. You can do that. And not just when you want to, but when you're ready to. That's also very important. And before I end, speaking of friendships and relationships, I realize I have not even introduced myself on my symposiums. I have just been blah, 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 talking, talking, talking. And I have not even said what my name is. I'm Nico Chanel. It's nice to meet you. You can call me Nico, you can call me Chanel, you can call me goddess, ethereal princess, whatever comes to mind. It's okay, baby. But thank you for watching. I really appreciate you. Before I go, what 3 adjectives would you use to describe what kind of friend you ultimately want to be? Leave it in the comments. I'll see you later, Schwarzenegger.
Bye.
My girl for real. Doom, doom, doom. Doom, doom, doom.
My girlfriend.
Doom, doom, doom. Doom, doom, doom.
My girlfriend. Yeah. Rest in peace, Angie Stone.